Growing up, I always felt like I was missing something, like I was playing a role that didn't quite fit. My mom had dreamed of having a daughter, or at least that's what she joked about whenever we passed by clothing stores with frilly dresses in the window. She'd sigh and say, "Wouldn't it be fun to shop for those?" And I'd laugh awkwardly, pretending I didn't feel a strange pull toward them. It wasn't that I disliked being a boy. It was more that the idea of being a girl felt right in a way I couldn't explain. But I kept those thoughts locked away, afraid of what they meant, afraid of what people would think. That is, until the day I found myself alone in the house with nothing but time and curiosity gnawing at me. Mom was out for the weekend, visiting her sister in another city. Dad had passed away years ago, so it was just me and the quiet emptiness of our home. I wandered into her room, not really sure what I was looking for, until my eyes landed on her closet. The door was slightly ajar, and inside, I could see the soft pastels of her blouses, the delicate fabrics of her skirts. My heart pounded as I reached out, fingers brushing against a silky dress she'd worn to a wedding last summer. Before I could talk myself out of it, I pulled it off the hanger. The material felt cool against my skin, and I held it up to myself, staring at my reflection in the mirror. A rush of excitement and fear surged through me. What was I doing? This was crazy. But the longer I stood there, the more I wanted to try it on. I stripped down to my underwear, hesitating for only a second before slipping the dress over my head. It fit surprisingly well, a little loose around the waist, but not enough to look ridiculous. I turned to the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I saw a version of myself that made sense. My messy hair suddenly looked intentional, like a girl who didn't care about perfection. My frame, which had always felt awkward in men's clothes, seemed to soften in the dress. I didn't stop there. I rummaged through her drawers, finding a padded bra that I stuffed with socks, then a pair of tights that smoothed out my legs. Her makeup bag was next. I had no idea what I was doing, but after a few clumsy attempts, I managed to apply some mascara and lipstick. The final touch was a wig she kept for costume parties, a shoulder-length brunette style that completed the look. When I looked in the mirror again, I barely recognized myself. And yet, it felt more like me than anything ever had. That was the first time, but it wasn't the last. Every chance I got, I'd sneak into her room, trying on different outfits, experimenting with makeup, learning how to walk in heels. It became my secret, my escape. But secrets have a way of slipping out, and mine did in the most unexpected way. One evening, Mom came home early. I was in her room, wearing one of her sundresses, my hair pinned up in a messy bun, when I heard the front door open. Panic shot through me. I scrambled to wipe off the makeup, but there was no time to change. The door creaked open, and there she stood, frozen in the doorway. I expected anger, disgust, confusion. But instead, her eyes filled with tears. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, she stepped forward and cupped my face in her hands. "You're beautiful," she whispered. That was all it took for the dam to break. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing, years of repressed feelings pouring out. She held me, stroking my hair, telling me it was okay, that she loved me no matter what. From that day on, everything changed. Mom didn't just accept me. She embraced me. She taught me how to do my makeup properly, took me shopping for clothes that actually fit, even helped me pick out a name, Emily. It wasn't always easy. There were stares, whispers, moments of doubt. But with her by my side, I found the courage to be myself. And in the end, I realized something beautiful. I hadn't just discovered who I was meant to be. I had become the daughter she'd always wanted, and in doing so, I'd finally found myself. The first time I stepped outside as Emily, my heart was a hummingbird trapped in my ribs. Mom had spent hours helping me, picking out a simple but pretty floral dress, showing me how to blend my foundation just right, even lending me a pair of her delicate gold earrings. "You don't have to do this today if you're not ready," she said, her hand resting on my shoulder as we stood by the front door. But I was ready. Or, at least, I needed to be. The summer air was warm. The sunlight dappled through the trees as we walked to the nearby cafe, a small, quiet place where Mom knew the owner. Every step felt like a performance, like the whole world was watching. My legs, freshly shaved and smooth beneath the dress, prickled with nerves. I kept my head down, clutching the strap of my purse, a gift from Mom, pale pink and just big enough for my phone and lip gloss. Then a miracle. Nothing happened. No one pointed. No one laughed. The barista smiled at me the same way she smiled at Mom, and when she handed me my latte, she said, "Here you go, miss." Mississippi. The word sent a thrill through me so intense I had to bite my lip to keep from grinning like a fool. Mom squeezed my hand under the table. "See," she murmured, "you belong here just as much as anyone else." After that, things moved quickly. I started dressing as Emily at home full-time, only switching back to boy mode for school, for now at least. Mom helped me order clothes online, things that actually fit my frame, rather than whatever I could sneak from her closet. Skirts that flared just right, tops that hugged my shoulders without looking awkward, my first real bra with padding that didn't involve balled-up socks. But the biggest moment came when she sat me down one evening, a serious look on her face. "Emily," she said, and oh, how I loved hearing her say my name. "Do you want this to be you? All the time?" I didn't even have to think. "Yes." She nodded, like she'd expected nothing else. "Then we'll make it happen." The next few months were a whirlwind. Therapy sessions to navigate my feelings, doctor's appointments to discuss hormone options, even a consultation about vocal training to soften my speech. Mom was there for every step, fierce and unwavering. When I got my first prescription for estrogen, she held my hand in the pharmacy line. When I fretted over coming out to friends, she helped me draft texts, her thumbs flying over her phone with more confidence than I could muster. Not everyone reacted perfectly. A few classmates turned cold. One of my uncles made a comment at Thanksgiving that sent Mom into a rage, so sharp it left the room silent. But for every moment of doubt, there were a dozen more of joy. Like the first time I wore a swimsuit, a one-piece with ruching at the waist to flatter my figure, and Mom grinned at me from her lounge chair, shouting, "Look at my daughter, everyone!" Like I'd been hers all along. And then graduation. I'd spent months agonizing over it. Would I walk as him, the person everyone expected, or as me? In the end, the choice was easy. I wore a white sundress, my hair now long enough to curl at my shoulders, my nails painted pale blue to match my cap. When they called my dead name, I didn't move. But when they announced Emily Matthews, because Mom had insisted the school updated, I stepped forward, my heels clicking on the stage. The applause was deafening. Not just from Mom, who was on her feet, crying openly, but from friends, teachers, even strangers who'd watched me transform over the year. In that moment, I wasn't the boy who'd once hidden in his mother's closet. I was just Emily. That night, as we sat on the couch flipping through photos, me in my cap and gown, Mom fussing with my hair before the ceremony, the two of us laughing over cake, she pulled me into a hug. "I always wanted a daughter," she whispered. I leaned into her, breathing in her familiar perfume. "You've got one." And for the first time in my life, it was that simple. The summer after graduation stretched before me like an open road, golden and full of promise. With high school behind me, I finally had the freedom to be Emily without hesitation. No more switching back and forth, no more hiding. Mom and I spent those sun-drenched months rebuilding my wardrobe from scratch, donating all my old boy clothes to charity. It felt symbolic, like shedding a skin I'd outgrown. One afternoon, while sorting through a rack of blouses at a thrift store, Mom held up a silky lavender top with delicate pearl buttons. "This would look gorgeous with your complexion," she said, eyes sparkling. I ducked my head, smiling as I ran my fingers over the fabric. A year ago, this would have felt like a fantasy. Now it was just shopping with my mom. Normal, beautiful. As fall approached, I faced my next big challenge, college. I'd been accepted to a liberal arts school 2 hours away, and for the first time, I'd be living as Emily in a place where no one had ever known me as anyone else. The thought was equal parts exhilarating and terrifying. Mom helped me pack, folding my sweaters with tissue paper between them like they were precious artifacts. "You'll call every Sunday?" she asked, trying and failing to sound casual. I nodded, suddenly fighting tears. This woman had given me everything, not just acceptance, but active, joyful support. How could I leave her? But when move-in day came, she was all business, fluffing my dorm room pillows and arranging my makeup organizer on the desk. "Remember," she said, pressing a kiss to my forehead, "you're not starting over. You're just being yourself somewhere new." Those first weeks on campus were surreal. My roommate, a bubbly art major named Jess, never questioned my gender. She just complimented my outfits and invited me to frat parties. Professors called me Ms. Matthews without a second glance. Sometimes, lying in my narrow dorm bed, I'd replay my high school self's fears. What if everyone can tell? What if I'm not convincing? And want to laugh at how unnecessary those worries had been. Then, halfway through freshman year, I met Daniel. He was a grad student in my gender studies class, all tousled brown hair and thoughtful silences. When he asked me out for coffee after a seminar, my stomach flipped, not just from nerves, but from the sheer novelty of being seen as a woman by someone I liked. Our first date was all fumbled jokes and too long eye contact, but when he walked me back to my dorm and hesitated before kissing my cheek, I floated upstairs in a daze. Mom squealed when I told her. "My baby's first real date," she crowed, as if I were 16 instead of 19. But her excitement turned serious when I admitted my fears. "What if he finds out?" I whispered into the phone. There was a long pause. Then, gently, "Emily, you're not a secret to be uncovered. You're a woman. If he can't see that, he doesn't deserve you." I told Daniel 2 months later, curled up on his couch after a movie. His response was to pull me closer. "I kind of figured," he murmured into my hair, "but it doesn't change how I see you." In that moment, something deep inside me, a last, stubborn knot of fear, finally unraveled. When I brought him home for Thanksgiving, Mom hugged him so long I had to pry her off. Over pumpkin pie, she regaled him with embarrassing childhood stories, carefully edited to avoid dead naming, her eyes crinkling at the corners every time he made me blush. Watching them laugh together, I felt a quiet certainty settle in my chest. This was my life now. Not a performance, not a phase, just me. That winter, Mom helped me schedule top surgery. The night before, as we sat in the hospital's stark waiting room, she suddenly pressed a small box into my hands. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a tiny pendant, a butterfly mid-flight. "For your metamorphosis," she said, voice thick. I wore it every day after, the cool metal resting against my collarbones like a touchstone. When I graduated college, when I moved in with Daniel, when I stood before a judge to legally change my name, that butterfly stayed with me, a reminder of how far I'd flown. Last Mother's Day, I gave Mom a framed photo for my wedding. In it, we're both laughing, her hands clasped around mine as we admire my lace-covered bouquet. The caption reads, "Thanks for always knowing I was your daughter." She keeps it on her bedside table, right next to the picture of me in her sundress all those years ago. 2 bookends of a same love story. Sometimes, when we're sipping tea in her kitchen, she'll reach over and tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, just like she did when I was first learning to be myself. And every time, without fail, she'll say the same thing. "Best daughter I ever could have asked for." The years melted together in the best way, soft and sweet, like honey dissolving in tea. Daniel and I built a life in a little apartment with sunlit windows and a balcony where I grew herbs in mismatched pots. Mom visited every Sunday, always arriving with a new batch of cookies or a thrifted sweater she just had to get for me. She never stopped mothering me, never stopped being my loudest cheerleader. When I landed my dream job at a publishing house, assistant editor for a feminist imprint, she showed up at my office with balloons and a cake shaped like a book. My coworkers laughed, charmed by her enthusiasm, and I realized with a jolt that they only knew me as Emily. No sideways glances, no whispered questions, just acceptance. But life, even the happiest ones, isn't without its shadows. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Mom called, her voice uncharacteristically small. "They found a lump," she said. Just 4 words, and the world tilted. "Breast cancer. Stage 2. Very treatable, the doctors assured us, but those words didn't stop my hands from shaking as I sat beside her during chemo sessions. She'd lost her hair within weeks, and I shaved mine in solidarity, the two of us giggling like girls at a sleepover as the clippers buzzed over my scalp. "Now we match," she said, tying a silk scarf around her head with theatrical flair. The night before her double mastectomy, I crawled into her hospital bed like I was 5 years old again. She traced the outline of my butterfly pendant and whispered, "You know, when you first tried on my clothes, I wasn't just accepting you. I was grateful." I lifted my head. Grateful. She smiled, her thumb brushing my cheekbone. All those years wishing for a daughter, and there you were, my son who'd been her all along. I didn't lose anything. I just got to see you bloom. I buried my face in her shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of her lavender lotion. Mom recovered, slowly but surely. And when she was strong enough, she joined Daniel and me at City Hall, where we signed the papers to make me her legal daughter. Not just in spirit, but on paper. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes, didn't bat an eyelash at the petition. "Congratulations, Ms. Matthews," she said, stamping the form with a decisive thunk. That night, we celebrated at Mom's favorite Italian restaurant. Over tiramisu, Daniel slid a small box across the table. Inside was a ring, a simple emerald flanked by diamonds. "I know it's not traditional to propose in front of your mom," he said, grinning at my stunned expression, "but I figured she'd kill me if I didn't let her witness this." Mom clapped her hands, already crying. "Yes. Yes," she answered for me, making the entire restaurant laugh. Our wedding was held in Mom's backyard, under a canopy of twinkling lights. I wore a vintage-inspired lace gown with cap sleeves, my hair, now long again, curled into soft waves. Mom walked me down the aisle in a champagne-colored pantsuit, her arm looped firmly through mine. "You're stunning," she whispered as we paused before the arbor. Then, with a mischievous glint, "My little girl cleans up nice." I squeezed her hand, my throat too tight to speak. Later, during the toasts, she raised her glass and declared, "To Emily, the daughter I always wanted and the woman she was always meant to be." The guests erupted in applause, but all I saw was her. My mother, my first believer, the one who'd looked at a scared boy in a dress and seen her child. As the music swelled, Daniel spun me across the dance floor, my skirt flaring around me. Over his shoulder, I caught Mom dancing with her sister, her head thrown back in laughter. The butterfly pendant glinted at my throat, catching the light. Somewhere between the first timid step into her closet and this moment, surrounded by love, drenched in it, I'd stopped becoming and simply was. And that, more than anything, was the miracle. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. And let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.